Welcome back to another episode of Allowed to Ask, a First Rounds on Media production. Finding the right connection in a sea of endless profiles can feel exhausting, but what if you don't have to? That's where First Rounds on Me changes the game. With its one match per day feature, you're no longer swiping endlessly or juggling conversations. Instead, First Rounds on Me curates just one thoughtful connection each day, giving you the space to focus on quality over quantity. No distractions, just real opportunities to connect in a meaningful way. Download First Rounds on Me and get a free month of Frome's Terracotta subscription by using the code A2A. A, number 2, A, like allowed to ask. I feel like I need to clarify that every single time because it gets confusing. Anyway, we are so excited to be sitting here with our guest, mental health counselor.
Yeah.
Should we title you?
Yeah.
Tell us, and host of the podcast, Quiet on the Pod.
Quiet the clock.
Quiet the clock.
Quiet the
Yes.
clock.
Yes, quiet the clock. I wrote that. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We're so excited to have you on here.
I'm so excited. First of all, that dating app sounds amazing.
It's amazing.
I have so many clients that are just overwhelmed. I mean, some get a lot of matches, so then they get overwhelmed by the matches. So it's interesting to see like one a day where you can focus and
one a day. And also it's so great because they did so much research around like how people use dating apps, and most dating apps are like you swipe like crazy and it's just so mindless.
Yes.
So they actually physically have like an X button and a little like a like button. It sounds so minimal, but like the action of actually clicking versus like going back and forth makes it a little bit more intentional, and that's what they're all about.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, we do a lot of things mindlessly now. So
Yes,
Yes.
good.
every single day.
Okay,
no, yeah, Beth,
tell
us
you about
you.
me. Yes, I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I have a group practice called NYC Therapeutic Wellness. It was sort of a long journey to find therapy and becoming a therapist, and I'm happy to share more about that here.
Yeah,
I've
huge
been
fan of therapy over here.
good. I love it. Love it. Yeah, I mean, it was a journey, and everybody asked me like, how did I know therapy was for me? And I never knew it was. I just knew. First, I knew what wasn't for me. So I started in finance, and I went to school for PR and corporate communications. And it was just this journey of like trial and error.
Oh, you did it all.
I did it. I've done everything.
Mhm.
Bartended in New York City. I've coached. I've done everything. You just kind of like we were
That's
talking
great.
off line, like the grind, and you
Yeah.
just have this like grit to kind of figure it out. And so I found therapy. I did all my clinical training in an outpatient program, and then worked for various other private practices and started my own probably almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
Wow.
And then almost 2 years ago, I started the podcast, Quiet the Clock, and that was born out of just conversations in my therapy practice with clients, with friends, and then my own personal journey of like not meeting these lifestyle milestones, what everybody said you should. So being like 34 and still single. I met my partner at 34,
Mhm.
and then not having a son, my son till 40. So I haven't always aligned with those things, and a lot of like angst comes up with that.
Yeah.
So, it's just like all these conversations were flying at me, and I'm like, hold up, we have to be having more conversations
Right.
about this. And so the podcast was born.
And that's I love that we're having you on because that is such a huge topic that we always talk about too. Is like I'm 28. I was single not too long ago.
Mhm.
I'm a Northeast Jew. There is this like
Yeah.
unspoken standard from mothers like my mom, who's now a changed woman, I would say, from this podcast.
Right.
there's
I'm
this-
learning along the way.
I
there's
love
all this
that.
unspoken, like I'm sure it's not just like the Northeast Jews too, but like you're approaching 30, like you should be almost married and having a kid by
Mhm.
32. Like
Mhm.
I feel like people,
I never put that pressure on you. Not the kid pressure.
not
Go
the
on.
kid pressure, never, but like it is crazy.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Like, fuck. But it is crazy how the only conversations people have and expectations are, oh, she's like 30 and single. Like, why? Like, so it's that's
yeah.
what we try to kind of diminish too, is like there's so much more outside of that. Like, I used to always say, like, okay, he's 32 and single. Like, okay, it's fine. Like, it's not a
Yeah.
big deal. But you're right. It's so, I like how your podcast is all about that because it's so stupid in my mind. That's the only conversation.
Yeah, I saw a great, I think I reposted it yesterday. That's like, I think it was from Jennifer Aniston. It was
Mhm.
like, we are looking at women through all the wrong lenses. It's just really like partnership and motherhood
I saw it at
and
your
family
post, yeah.
building. And it's like, but it's like women are doing such incredible things. And I love like sort of this idea of being able to reinvent ourselves. I think it's amazing that you're doing this podcast. I think it's just a testament that like, it's never too late to do anything.
Right.
And I think
True.
when we put this pressure on women particularly, I know men feel it too. And we were talking earlier about I want to have more men on because
I was going to ask you, that's one of my questions for you, if you think men feel this
Yes,
timeline as
I
well.
do. I think differently. Of course, like the biological clock is more attached to us as
Mhm.
women, but men's fertility rates are dropping as well. So it's a conversation we need to be having too, and men need to be considering too. I had an amazing guest on. He's the founder of Dandy, which is a fertility care
Yeah, I've heard of
product.
that.
And he was saying that he's like, we do too. We feel the pressure of time. Like we're up against the clock too. And we feel like, the societal pressures and expectations as well. And so I
Yeah.
think we're just speaking about it as women. I think
Right.
I love that I have this platform to have these conversations. I love the guests that come on. And I love what I'm seeing on social media too, and debunking these timelines.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think women are more outspoken about it right now. And I think we want to encourage men to talk about it too. I think they do feel it.
But it's great that you're doing this so people don't feel alone, because this is something
Yes.
people don't really talk about.
Yeah, when I was going through it, no one was talking about it. I was,
Yeah.
34. I'd come out of a relationship at the beginning of my 30s, and my friend group was all of these couples. And so now
Mhm.
I'm no longer in this relationship. I've kind of lost my social circle, and I'm watching everybody else get married and have kids, and I'm like drunk at the bar
I
at
know. I saw
thir-
one of your videos how you were saying how you became friends with a lot of people younger than you. And
Yes.
at first you felt a lot of like judgment and shame
Yeah.
around it, but then you were encouraging like you should be friends with people of other ages because it exposes you
It was the
to
biggest.
so many
Yeah, it was the
things.
biggest blessing for me. I was a bartender in New York City for so many years at a really popular bar.
I always thought it'd be very fun to be a bartender.
Oh my God, it was
You would
so
like it,
fun.
actually.
I would when
You
I was
would be great.
I went to
Yeah.
Syracuse and I always said like just for a night I wanted just to be a bartender at like one of the bars. There's like 2 bars in Syracuse.
Yeah.
Like
Do you know how to make a drink?
You don't
yeah,
need to know how to make a drink.
especially in a
You
college
learn.
bar with like plastic
Oh,
cups. Like I'm
okay.
sure it was just like a little bit of
Oh my
spit,
God.
vodka, and
No one knows what they're
cranberry juice.
drinking.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so funny. That just reminded me that when I was in college too, I wanted to bartend at like the dive bar. And
I thought it'd be
I was
so
like,
fun.
I was like, oh my God, this would be so fun. This would be so cool. And I got rejected. I didn't get the job.
Oh,
But
oh,
fast forward.
you actually went. I was just
Oh, I
like,
went for it. I went for it.
I think I only said this when I was like wasted in the bar, and I was like, I should try this for a night. And then like I was sober the next morning and was like, what did I say last
I
night?
know. You know what? It's an amazing industry, and it's so fun, but it's hard to get out of. So
What bar did you bartend
I
at?
worked at Ainsworth in Chelsea.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I don't think the one in Chelsea's open anymore.
No, oh my God, it's not open. I
Yeah.
was walking around there the other
That's like a very
a month ago,
popular
and
bar.
I'm like, I started to recognize the neighborhood, and I'm like, oh my God, Ainsworth, and I'm like, it's not there.
No,
and
and that
Aw.
one was always
I
packed.
couldn't believe it. I
Like
was
on Saturdays. Wow.
all my former bartending friends were like, R.I.P. Ainsworth. But I think some of the other ones are. There's so many.
There's
We
so
could have a whole
many.
episode about this place.
You could have
but
a reality
the-
television show about that place.
Oh my God, yes.
It's like a
Oh my
very
God.
popular, like young, like,
Lots
sports
y-
bar vibe.
Fun, though.
Yeah, it
Good
was like the
burger.
first of its kind, and it was like
Yeah.
super popular. Like a
Mhm.
lot of celebrities came through, which
Mhm.
is kind of the spot. And then they sort of oversaturated and started opening too many of them.
Yes, exactly.
But I always say the bar was the biggest blessing because instantly I had this new social circle,
Yeah,
and
it's
I
great.
had all of these friends because all of my friends were in these relationships, getting married, having babies, buying houses, etc. And I kind of was like in this no man's land. And then through the bar, I met incredible people. Some
Mhm.
people I'm still very close with today,
Right.
but a lot of them were younger than me. And there was judgment. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm hanging out with like 23-year-olds in the club. But, I realized the blessing in that was like I had so much to learn from them. There was so
Right.
much I could share with
Mhm.
with the younger friends of mine, and it was fun.
Yeah.
They were in my same life stage and relatable, and
Right.
you know,
Age is just a number.
age is
Yeah.
just a number. And I worked with the coolest people, the
Yeah,
smartest,
that's
most
so
creative.
nice.
Like it was just the biggest blessing.
Do you think that your friendships with the people who were older / your age at the time did your friendships were they impacted?
Totally.
Because it's interesting at least not my stage right now, I would say, but like there are a lot of people in my life or at my age that are getting married and are in totally different stages. I mean,
Yeah.
2 of my best friends are married. I'm sure they'll be having children in the next few years, and we're still so close, but it's like I can imagine I'm grateful that's not us, but I can imagine people who are in, different stages of lives, like friendships changing.
Totally. And I think that's an important conversation. We've been talking a lot about friendship on the podcast, and it's been on my mind a lot lately. And I think, the early 20s, everyone's kind of still in the same phase of like
Mhm.
figuring things out
Mhm.
and maybe dating or, figuring out career. And as you get into your 30s, everyone sort of starts to go down these different paths of like
Right.
different careers, different, maybe moving out of the city. And for me, certainly, I had very close friendships, in my 30s with people that were in these couples. And I remember sitting at one dinner in particular, and with three of my very, very best friends, one person being my identical twin sister.
Mm,
Oh,
And I felt,
that's a fun fact.
fun fact,
Yeah.
yes, identical twin sister. I felt so lonely. I felt no one related to me. I didn't
Yeah.
relate to them anymore. I mean, they were all rightfully so, like new moms and all talking about motherhood and babies and baby things. And I had really nothing to contribute. And it was a sad moment because I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't relate and I can't connect to these people I love so much. But it's also normal, and I think if you can acknowledge that, like,
Mhm.
it's very helpful to just acknowledge it's like, okay, we're just in different stages right
Mhm.
now, and
Right.
maybe in this moment we don't connect, but there's still a lot of love, and I think it's important to find people you can connect with and relate to.
What
Yeah.
tools did you use to like get through those nights when you're out
We
with
love
couples,
tools.
whatever, so you don't feel, or for people who are listening, so you didn't feel so alone and you knew there was so much ahead?
Yeah, I think part of what made it lonely was there's still for me at that stage in my life, and this is what I want to pay forward with the podcast. There was so much kind of shame and
Yeah.
and self judgment of like,
Yeah.
oh God, I'm not married, I don't have kids, I'm out, partying and all these things. And I think if you can really ground in gratitude for where you are, you won't
Yes.
feel that lonely. You'll be excited to hear their stories about
Right.
marriage and babies, and hopefully they're excited to hear your stories about
Mhm.
hooking up with whoever at the bar.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think,
Gratitude is the key word.
yeah,
Like, be
yeah.
thankful for what you have, and
And I think also it's grass is always greener in a way where like
Oh,
there were times when I was single and frolicking around and my friends were getting married, and there are times when they're like, "Oh my god, I can't even imagine what it's like to be single and dating. They've never gone on a first date."
yeah.
But there's also parts of me where I was like, "That's so nice. You get to like go home to like the love of your life every single day."
I know.
So then actually the founder of First Rounds on Me said to me once, it's my favorite saying, the grass is always greener on the side you water it. So I think when I was like around
Oh,
it's
I love
I know,
that.
it's
Yeah, when
so
we don't
good.
water it enough. We
Right.
don't.
So when I was with my friends who were like talking about their weddings, like it was so unrelatable to me because when they're now married for like 2 years, or in a year, but when they were talking about marriage, it was so unrelatable to me. But I had a mindset where I was just like, there's no difference in our lives right now. They're just in a different stage. And so I would just be very involved in their weddings
Yeah.
and be into the conversations, even though it had nothing to do with my life and so distant from what I was doing. I was like going on God knows how many first dates. Like I made sure it was like a mindset to still be so
Totally.
present in their
Totally.
lives, even though they were going through something
Right.
very different than
but
I
you're
was.
also a well-wisher, but there's some people who can't get out of their own way, and
Right.
they want to be happy for the person, but they're so unhappy for themselves they can't.
Yeah, and I think what's also important to normalize is you can be both.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that I'm a huge believer that we can feel multiple things at once, and I think we can still show up and be happy for our friends and what our friends are going through, and still sad that we don't have
Mhm.
those things. I love what you said about presence. I think it's
Mhm.
important to be present in our own lives too.
Right.
And what happens is, and where I got stuck too, is looking at all the things I didn't have yet. Like I didn't have partnership, and being so zoned in on that I was missing out on all the amazing things that I had, and I wasn't present in my own life because I'm looking
Yeah.
at all the things I don't have. And really what allowed me to meet my partner, invite my partner in, was getting really present and grateful in my own life, because I was like, okay, I don't have this thing, but I have all these other things.
Right.
Like I have this cute little 1-bedroom condo. I have this career I'm working towards. I have this ability to come and go as please and date whoever I want, do whatever I want. And really,
A whole lot of freedom.
oh, I daydream about the freedom now. But yeah, when I really got grateful and present in my own life is when so much more opened up for me. And I think it's really important that we be grateful and be really
Mhm.
focused on, okay, I have all of these things and maybe I don't have those things yet. Yet is the most important word. If those are
That's
the
good.
things that you want,
Right.
and really leaning into life now.
I
You
feel
don't
like the
get these
biggest
moments
thing-
back. You
Yeah,
don't get
it's
these
true.
moments back. It's like when I was dating Rob, I started dating Rob, and then we were talking about moving in. I'm like, no, I want to like live alone for longer,
Yeah.
And I always say too, it's like getting to these milestones, these ones that we put so much weight on, is not the
We always
solve
talk about this.
for
Yeah.
everything. It's not like, oh, you meet the person and you're instantly happy, or oh, you have the
Mhm.
baby and you're
Right.
instantly happy.
And I think plenty of people are kind of stuck in their relationships, but they feel like, all right,
Yeah,
I got to
oh.
hang into this one. I need to get married. You know what I mean? And then it's
Totally.
for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, I see that so much in my practice.
Yeah,
It's like,
right.
and I love my clients dearly, and sometimes I want to shake them and be like, get out of this.
I love your
relationship."
videos where it's like the things you want to like relate to. And you're like, wait, I've been through that too, but you like can't say that as a therapist.
Yeah, it's self-disclosure is a very skillful tactic.
No, I'd be a horrible therapist then because I'd be like, stop it, you're kidding. Like, I had the same thing. We said this on another episode, but I had a therapist, my first therapist ever. This was like 7-8 years ago. And she was like such a cute, sweet, nice lady, but she was like too friendly in the sense where she was like, shut up. Like he's a boy. Like he was like that. He's like, no, he didn't.
I know, you
And
gotta
I was
find the
like,
line.
I like don't think I could have that as a therapist.
Yeah, but to your mom's point, watched so many clients stay in relationships that weren't serving them because of fear of being alone, of being single, of not knowing what else was out there. So there's this idea of, settling, which is a hot
I have that now with friends who are in unhappy marriages.
I know.
Like, going into their 60s and, they're happy in their lives, but they're not happy in their partner, but they just kind of, stick around because of the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uncertainty is a
Yeah.
killer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
talking
can't-
about
I can't even imagine like that
right.
in my 60s.
But talking about how life pivots and shifts and making new friends, I mean, even for me, I got married in my late 20s.
You got married the typical timeline.
Yeah, pretty much so. Right, but then
I think for generations before us, there was no alternative. I mean, there was really like that's just what you did. I grew up being told that by my dad. It's like not necessarily marriage, but you kind of the path is like subliminally told.
there was
to you.
one
Oh, I
path.
thought I was gonna
There
be
was one path. kinda.
One.
Did you
Yeah.
grow up in Westchester?
I grew up in Westchester. I grew up in Mamaroneck, very old school
Oh,
Italian dad. He
yeah.
was kind of like
Sal's Pizza.
Sal's Pizzeria, best
Oh,
Sicilian slice.
I was
Best
worst.
Sicilian.
We're coming out of best Sicilian slice.
Yeah.
ever.
It is so good there.
Oh, it's so good. I'm picturing it right now. But when I was a teenager, I thought I was like gonna be married by 26.
We all did. I mean, we
I
all
also thought
did.
26 was really old when I was like 15.
But now, what do you think? Like, you're
No, I'm 28 and I'm like, what? That's crazy. It's crazy. I want to go back to the whole like judgment and feeling shame around that time, especially with friends, but going into like the family conversation because I think a lot of the pressure does come from parents, even if it's in like an unspoken or not spoken way.
Totally.
So how would you really, or how do you tell your patients, or how did you really manage, kind of limiting families' expectations of like, okay, I maybe I'm in my early 30s and I'm not in a relationship. Shut up, it's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting. I love that you do this with your mom because it makes me think about my mother and my parents. I think there was somewhere along the way they were just like knew I was just going to do my own thing. I mean, I didn't do anything traditionally. I graduated college and moved to Europe for a year, and then
Where'd you go?
I lived in Portugal and in France.
Okay, you lived your life. That's sick.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
I
me
lived
too.
a lot of life, and I think meeting my partner later, and now I see the benefit of doing things later. And I
Mhm.
hate to like label in a time way, but like so much benefit to meeting my partner later, so much benefit to being a mom later. But I think with my parents, like my dad did sell this timeline of college and job, and then kind of from there, and I kind of never really followed that, and I think they kind of realized that I was always going to really do my own thing, and I think they stopped pressuring me. I think it was more a societal pressure, internal
Right.
pressure of like, these messages are passed down, and sometimes, like you said, they're subliminal, or they're
And
not.
social media.
Right.
And
just
social
seeing
media, and
all
but
these-
even before social media, like generation from generation to generation, this story is passed down. This blueprint is passed down. That it's like, okay, you have to continue to follow that, and to kind of go off that path can be very, very scary. But our body will tell us everything. Our emotions will tell us everything if we're listening to it. Like I
your
sat.
gut's always right.
It's always
Uh-huh.
right if we tune into it. And it's like I sat in my first job in a freaking cubicle in finance, and I cried every day. I was like, okay, this
Like,
is not
yeah.
right. This is not right. So that started my journey to figure out what I wanted to do. And if we let,
But you had the grit to make the changes, which is so important. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have that, or they just can't get out of their
yeah,
own way.
they don't have that. There's a
Mhm.
lot of fear. There's
Mhm.
no modeling around them of other people doing it and being successful. There might not be any support in doing that. But gosh, if you're not happy, I mean, we got one life to live. If
It's
you're
true.
not happy at whatever age, at 60 in an unhappy marriage, like you gotta make a
Right.
change.
I always say life isn't a dress. This isn't a dress
This is
rehearsal.
it.
Like this is
I've
it.
never heard you say that.
I've said it
Wow,
before.
you're
But you
learning
also,
things very wise this podcast.
but you also have a twin sister. You mentioned.
Yeah,
Did she follow
she
the
did.
path, the
She did.
traditional
She
path?
was in that group who got married and had babies. She had babies in her early 30s. I have
Mhm.
2 nephews that will, let's see, 11 and will be 10.
Wow.
My son's 3.5, so you can kind of see how
Yeah.
Right.
differently we did things. So yeah, she bought the house, she got married, she had the 2 kids, and then she got divorced.
Oh, there you go.
And
Right.
she's much happier now. So she was one of the ones that checked all the boxes and followed the blueprint. And you kind of, some people arrive there and be like, this is it. This is the story I was told. And
Yeah.
Right.
she was really brave enough to get divorced. Like yourself, I
Mm.
know a lot of people that are still in very unhappy marriages. So I give her a lot of credit with 2 small kids to make that decision.
Yeah.
She's married.
I'm married.
No,
Oh,
you
I was
say
saying
your
general
friend.
friends.
Your,
Yeah,
your friend.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what? Are you getting
No, no, no,
divorced?
no.
I don't know about it.
No, your
But
friend.
did you tell Beth without me that you're getting divorced?
Yeah, when you went to the bathroom.
Yeah. By the way, when you were looking for the plug.
No, you said your friends that are in unhappy
Right.
marriages, like we stay in these situations because there is so much uncertainty and there is so
Correct.
much fear. So for
Mhm.
anyone
Yeah.
that's willing to kind of like step outside the box or make a change when they realize they're unhappy, I give them so much credit. It's a really brave thing to do.
Right. Because I always say everyone deserves happiness. I mean,
Totally.
I was
Totally.
this was like 2 years ago or something when I first started my business, and I had a new business call with this woman. And what's her name? But she was so amazing. And for some reason, she was like 35 or something, has 2 kids. And for some reason, our new business call turned into talking about dating. She was just like a cool, normal chick, just wanted to like shoot the shit with me. I don't know why, but it was funny. It was a new business call. And it ends up, we were talking about dating. And she asked my relationship status. And I was like, no, I'm single. But I guess the way I was saying it was like, yeah, I'm single. You know, everyone's like getting into a serious relationship. I think she heard like my tone in it. And she literally was like, Danny, I'm 35. I have 2 kids and I'm divorced. She's like, I wish I did everything at least 7 years later than I actually did it. And and I remember in that moment, I don't think I had like a huge shift in dating them. But I remember in that moment, I was like, wow, that's like so true. Like she like wished she kind of pushed back her life. So I think in that moment, I like took off a little bit of pressure off myself.
Totally.
Like
I
crazy what a new business call can do to you.
You know, it comes from if
Random places.
Yeah, random places if we're tuning into it.
Yeah.
I was on another podcast and the host had said the same thing to me, and she was maybe in her 50s and had kids young, married young. I think also had gotten divorced, and she said offline, she said, I really wish I had done everything later. And I think those are conversations we need to be pushing forward. I think those are the models that we need to see, that there is so much beauty in taking our time
Yeah.
with things and not feeling like we're behind or we're running out of time or there isn't enough time. It's just like nothing good comes when we put pressure on things.
It's true.
But now we
So
could
true.
shift to quiet the clock because I think
Yeah.
that is the biggest pressure.
Well, I
for
love the
women.
name of your podcast.
Love.
Thank you.
But that's like the biggest thing. Like
Yeah.
you want to have kids, and that is a pressure, women have to do on the earlier side.
Yeah, I think, and you know what I've shared with you guys personally, and I'm happy to share here. I shared on my podcast. I'm going through a secondary infertility journey at 43, but I'm not giving up at
Mhm.
43. Like I am going to have another baby, and
You
I think,
are. You really are. I
yeah.
know it.
Oh, thank you. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, you are.
And that's the thing is like a friend of mine was texting this to me to not to shift. I'll get back to the question is that a lot of things don't come in the time that we want.
Yeah.
We want things when we want them, and they're going to come to us when they're supposed to. And that's really hard to kind of lean into trust. But I've lived it. I've experienced it. Like I do believe in it. I think the work is staying grounded in that and
Mhm.
staying connected to that and staying in trust of that.
And this podcast, even like, sorry to interrupt, but we've always said we wanted a podcast, and then like kind of as like a joke, we would say it. Years.
I
ago-
never said it.
Yeah. Yes, you have.
I
You
never
always-
even listened
You
to a
always used to
podcast
say,
before
I
we did
honestly
this.
wasn't a big podcast girly either, for being transparent here, but you used to always say on our FaceTimes, like, we should have a podcast. I think that in a way, and
You put
I
it
was
out
always
there.
down to have a podcast. Like I would never.
You manifested
I
it.
you manifested it. But right, this came when like I was least expecting it. I was just like on a call with one of my clients, and he was like do you want to pitch us a podcast idea? I'm like, does a bear shit in the woods? Obviously, I want to do that.
But it's so fun though, also because we're learning along the way. We meet. I love every guest. Like
It's
we
so
meet
fun.
amazing
She has like
people.
either a guy or girl crush
We're
for the next
we're
48
learning a
hours.
lot. Like it's good.
No, the guests are the best part. The
The best.
connections and the relationships. But back to the biological clock. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talk a lot about on the podcast is freezing your eggs and just knowing that that's an option available to you. And I always say even before that is like we have to know our fertility health. The amount of shit I am learning now as a 43-year-old about my body, my health, how my body works,
Should
how
I be
it
doing it
functions.
now?
Huh?
Should I be doing it now?
Yes. Yes.
Like, what do I need to do?
Go to your doctor and get your fertility checked.
First, I need a doctor because I
Well,
finally
okay,
found.
step
I
one.
finally found one. I have the shittiest insurance and finally found one. And then they're like, "Psych, I'm gonna go only online and do like telehealth appointments." I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
Remote.
Remote.
Okay, we got to find you a
I know,
But
I
you
got
think
doctor.
at that 28, I was thinking at like 31, 32.
What?
Our
to freeze
fertility-
my eggs.
Yeah.
I mean, the sooner the better. I mean, listen, it's a very personal choice, but know the information. Like
Right.
know, I've had women that have gone to get their fertility checked and they found out they're, have low ovarian reserve or they're close to menopause and they have to act really quickly.
Interesting.
And there's also fear. I've had so many clients have fear around knowing that information. It can be scary to find out something
Yeah.
is not right, but if you don't know, you can't do anything about it.
Right.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge.
Yeah,
is power.
knowledge
Oh,
is
wait,
power.
I suddenly need to like go get my eggs frozen.
No.
Well, no,
no.
don't get freaked out. Go check it. Go check it out. We had a guest on that was froze her eggs at 25,
But like, why not?
but why not? If it's accessible to you,
But did
it's
they have
affordable
some
to you.
kind of illness or something? Like they just
No,
'cause that seems
she
so
was just
young.
super proactive about listen, this is another thing, and I am learning is there's two different narratives happening, unfortunately, in the fertility world. There's like Western medicine fertility doctors that will tell you that your eggs completely decline at 35, and then you have more holistic sort of functional.
5.
Yeah, they'll say it's 35. I
My
don't
dear
agree.
friend got pregnant at 41
I got
with her
pregnant
fourth.
at 39.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I got pregnant naturally at 39. I just got pregnant naturally at 43. Unfortunately, had a miscarriage, but I got pregnant. So, these narratives again, all these narratives are really harmful and unhelpful. But
Yeah.
we have to have, our own advocacy in this, our own agency in this, and knowing what's going on with
Yeah.
our health, with our body, with our life. It's our life to live. And then when we start listening to all these shitty narratives, we can feel.
Yeah, you can
Really-
really go into like
really
a rabbit
shitty.
hole too and
Yeah.
just
Right.
taking all this bad information.
But yeah, there's so much pressure on the biological clock, but we are resourced with options, and we should explore those options.
you
because-
never froze your eggs.
No. I mean, you looked at me, I got pregnant. I had no problem getting pregnant.
And some women might, and you might not. You might not have any issues. We just don't
Yeah.
know. And I had no issues getting pregnant with my first, but I'm having terrible issues getting pregnant with my second. So we just never know. And I
Yeah.
think to inform yourself, resource yourself, educate yourself is just.
So did you do the egg freezing journey?
Yeah, I froze my eggs at 37. So I met my partner at 34. We weren't quite on the same page of timeline for kids, and I was panicked. I was
Mhm.
like, and was.
But you stayed with him.
Yeah, I did. We worked it out. We had a lot of like hard conversations. Like
I like that.
Yeah.
yeah, I was unafraid. I mean, I was afraid to have those conversations. They're hard conversations, but
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to be a mother, and if this is not what you want and we're not on the same page, I love you very much, but I want to be a mother. And it's because of those hard conversations that we got where we did and why we're so strong
Yeah.
today. So yeah, I froze at 37 because we weren't quite there yet, and then at 39, I was really like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Right.
We had many hard conversations, and he was like, let's just okay.
Because you were already into the relationship for 5 years.
Yeah, I was well, and
You were very patient.
yeah, but what I'll also say, and the value of meeting him later is like I dated a lot. I knew what I wanted, and I knew what he offered, and I
Well,
knew.
you're beautiful and a little powerhouse.
Oh, thank
You are.
Second.
You have good energy.
And I know what kind of person he is. He's an amazing, amazing person, but I was willing to walk away for that because I wanted
Yeah.
motherhood, and very fortunately enough for us, we aligned. We had a conversation in, I think it was beginning of September. He's like, all right, let's see what happens. I stopped my pill, and I was pregnant like weeks later
That's
with our
great.
son.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I froze at 37 because we weren't aligned and I wanted that insurance.
Yeah.
Fortunately enough, I didn't need them for my first. We've tried to use them for the second, and we've done 2 transfers with those eggs, and we'll see what's next for us.
How long do eggs last? I was wondering.
Oh, good question.
I you know I want to say 15 years, but that might not be right. It might be longer than that.
And then what do they do with the eggs when you're done with them? Like, do you?
You can donate them for well, I don't know about the eggs, but I know with embryos you have a choice of either discarding them, donating to be, for research, or you can donate them. People adopt embryos. I'm
That's
not sure about the eggs.
crazy.
And
That
maybe
has to be kind of crazy. And then do you ever find out that?
I'm not really sure about that process. I
interesting.
think
Yeah.
there's opportunity to decide if it's like an open, maybe it's the same, like it's an open adoption, and that at some point they
Yeah.
can meet the biological parents. I don't know a ton about
Mhm.
that, but
It's interesting. I feel like recently I follow like obviously a bunch of influencers just like for life and for work. And I feel like not until like this year or the year before, I've been seeing so many like partnerships with fertility companies.
yes. Oh yeah.
With
Oh
influencers.
yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm just following people of the age where people are starting to do that, but I feel like I've never seen that before. Like there's literally influencer partnerships with all these
Totally.
fertility
Yeah,
companies.
I had a guest on that was one of those
Yeah.
influencer partnerships. Yeah. There's a lot more options now. When I was 37, there weren't as many options as there are now. There's all these kind of pop-up clinics that are
Mhm.
happening that again, you have to do your research and
Right.
see like what is a good fit for you, but there's a lot of option now. And there's extensive options in terms of like you can get egg donors, you can adopt embryos. Like if there's something wrong with your fertility or you're not able to,
Oh,
if you have,
that's scary to find out though.
it is, yeah, it is, it's nerve wracking, but that's fear is what gets in the way for,
Right.
it gets in the way of everything, career, relationships, leaving a relationship, checking our fertility. It's like, we can't let fear lead. Like, don't let fear
How do
lead.
they check your fertility?
Don't look at me. I have no idea.
You can get blood work done and they'll check your like AMH
So it's
levels.
just a
You have-
blood test?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
that sounds fun.
Let's do it tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
But the whole freezing the egg journey.
Yeah,
That's probably
it's a lot.
emotionally
Totally.
exhausting. It's probably super expensive.
It's very expensive. Again, there's more options and ways to kind of finance it. For me, I didn't have the money. For me, I think it was like $15,000 at that time in my life. I didn't have that, and I opened up a credit card and put it on a credit card. And I was really, I thought about egg freezing for a while, and this is what happens for a lot of women. It's like you're in pre-contemplation about it for so long because it's scary. It's a lot of unknowns. You're hoping you don't have to do that, and kind of life will just unfold in a way that So I thought about it for years before I even went and had a consultation, which happens for a lot of women. And one of the narratives that comes out of doing this for a lot of women is always, "I wish I'd done this sooner," and that was the same for me. So when I went in at 37, I saw the
That's
cost.
a theme that we're seeing with a lot of conversations we have.
Yeah.
But there's no downside then to do it early, except for the expense and
Yeah, the expense.
time,
I think
and it's probably very
emotionally, what I will say is that there is such an emotional difference depending on when you do it. If you're someone that does it in your early 20s or early 30s, women will feel empowered because it's an empowering choice. It's like, I'm being proactive about my fertility. For me at 37, and for a lot of other women, it's like, fuck, I have to do this. Like, this sucks. Like, I'm 37. Like, I don't know what's happening in my relationship. Like,
But you did it with your partner. At least you had your partner's support.
I did have his support, but and I've shared this on my podcast. I saw us being together, and we are still together. Like, this is forever. Hopefully, life throws curveballs, but it was suggested to me that we freeze embryos because that's always a better option.
I actually knew that. My one of my close friends from home, she's at her residency to be an OBGYN.
Oh, wow.
So I did know that.
Yeah.
We always have her do with my home friends breast exams when we're with her.
Yes,
So I was like, take her top off, and she just like all starts rubbing our boobs.
Love that.
Free breast exam.
But I like that. That's
yeah, of
good.
course.
And he was not ready to do that. So that for me fueled a lot of anger and resentment, and I was going to leave him out of the process. And I had a therapist at the time that encouraged me to like include him and let him be a part of it, which I
love that therapists go to therapists.
Oh yeah, we need therapists too. And I'll never forget that recommendation. I feel very grateful for that because I can be very stubborn, and I was like, fuck, this, fuck him. Like,
I'm doing it on my own.
yeah, it's I'm
Yeah.
doing it. And he was such a huge part of it. He did all the mixing of the medication. He did all the needles.
Aw.
I hate the needles, and
Right.
it was really great. He was
Mhm.
that I she recommended that to me. Yeah. So
Love.
yeah.
Do you find that when with your clients, this is like a major topic, or is there a certain thing you specialize with your clients?
Well, I took a big step back clinically last year, but a lot of it is this stuff like
Mhm.
relationships, life transitions, purpose, career
Yeah.
fulfillment.
Certain age groups or
Yeah,
all?
25 to 45 is like where
Yeah.
I work. But
Yeah.
I did find myself a lot with women like me in their 30s, like trying to date, trying to figure out their
I'm
career,
sure it's nice for them too, for
freezing their
someone
eggs.
who's kind of went through the concerns,
Yeah.
quote unquote, that
Yeah,
you
and I
had.
think, using self-disclosure in therapy can be a tricky thing, and you have to
Right.
be really careful about that, and it has to be, complementary to treatment. But I think for a lot of my clients where I did self-disclose, it was like hopeful. It was
You're right.
like,
Exactly.
okay, you
Because you
did
figured it
it's
out.
possible. Like you can do these things later. Like
Yeah.
so I love paying that forward because it is possible. And there again, like I said earlier, there's a lot of beauty in doing it later. I think
Yeah.
I knew so much more about myself at 34 than I did at like even 32. I knew what I wanted, what type of relationship, what I wanted, values, and that invited
So you
in.
were dating very differently in your 20s versus your 30s.
Oh
Same
my
kind of men or
God.
different men?
Oh my. I dated I dated the most outside the box people. Like I was in the scene. So I was
Yeah.
like celebrities and like crazy like businessmen and like actor. It was just
Yeah.
like
Oh, any good actors?
Every part
so
of
we
the
can-
spectrum.
I'm not gonna say. But when I really stepped back and looked at it, they were all emotionally unavailable. They were
Right.
never going to be in a relationship with me, and
Did you realize that while you were dating? Because I feel like it's hard to
No.
kind of see that
Right.
I was
perspective.
kind of like, oh, it was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun.
You're
I'm like,
having
oh my God,
fun.
we're like so connected, and
Yeah.
like we get along. It was just like you tell
He's it.
yourself these stories. You tell
Right.
yourself these stories, and
Oh
In
yeah,
your head, you're moving to Hollywood.
Oh yeah, literally, you're walking
I
by the red carpet.
I was moving to a yacht in Spain with a chef. That was I
That's
met.
not too bad.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting, and if you really pay attention, the universe will like put things in front of you. So when I met Rob, so before meeting Rob, I kind of stepped back and I was like, okay, well, look at all these people I'm dating. Like they're completely unavailable. Like they're unavailable, like not even in this country
Right.
available.
Yeah.
They're like emotionally unavailable. And
I think about that too, and I'm just in my late 20s. But the guys I've dated when I was like 24, I'm like, what were they doing?
oh my God. There's funny memes on Instagram too. It's like, you and your friend like laughing your ass off about the people you like thought you were going to
Yeah.
marry.
Or there's ones where it's like your friend asks you about like that one guy, and you're like, who? Like which
Or
one?
you have like, they never have real names. They're just like, the code
Oh
names.
my
Oh,
God, my
we
friends
always
and
have,
I,
but
we
we
have
always have names.
Gym
for
Boys,
people.
Swedish man. Like we have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
name
Oh, yeah.
for
Dancing Bear.
Dancing Bear. You thought of that one, but there's a name for. I don't think my friends even ever assume of my.
Yeah, because if you're like
myself,
Steve, they're like,
like, who the
what?
fuck
And they're
is
like, you're like
Steve?
Dancing
Yeah.
Bear.
Yeah.
Oh, Dancing Bear. Yeah, that one. That one.
But yeah.
But so, before meeting, like a month before meeting Rob, I stepped back and I kind of recognized my pattern. And then I meet Rob
How'd you
on
guys meet?
we met at do you know Bar Taco?
Of
First
course,
Taco.
of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Love.
He like walked over to my table. I met him that night. He doesn't know the
Oh, he
story,
made the
but
move.
he made the move.
Nice, Rob.
I met him that night, and then that next day I reconnected with a guy that I worked with at Ainsworth who was the chef on a yacht in Spain. And so I was kind of talking to the both of them at the same time. And the universe was like, Beth, here's your old pattern.
Yeah.
Here's someone. 'Cause
Truly
Rob was
testing
just
you.
like a normal union guy, like just like very different than when I dated. And the universe put both these people in front of me and it's like, all right, this is the test. Like,
Yeah.
who are you going to choose?
It's wild.
And for a minute I was like, well, I'm going to move to Spain and be on a
Yeah.
yacht. And then Rob won out.
Yeah.
Right.
Good job, Rob.
You could have started watching Below Deck and
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't want this
been a
life.
deck girl.
But we idealize things. I mean, we idealize things. I think that's part of the trouble with dating is like we meet these people and we're not really seeing them for who they are. We like idealize them. We idealize the situation,
Right.
and we're
Crazy
like,
what the mind can do.
Yeah.
we're creating this whole story and this whole
Because
narrative.
you so
it's like
want
not
it
even
to
true.
happen.
Yeah, because you want it.
I
to
was
work.
like that when she had boyfriends sometimes.
What,
I'm
you were-
like creating a whole story in my brain.
Yeah, but you're nuts. The point of this podcast too is, and which is why I also love it, is because we're actually seeing the impact of it. Like, so are you with the whole timeline thing. Like, we very much encourage not just moms, but really moms, parents to have these conversations with their
Yeah.
kids about dating and sex and going out and just like being a young girl, guy
Like
in their
being
20s,
realistic.
like being not even 20s, like when you're growing up in high school, like people start drinking. So
Yeah.
she's even seeing now with like her friends, some of her friends are like, I don't even know if my daughter goes on dates. So now they're talking
okay,
about
wait,
it.
okay. I'm sitting here now, my mind is being blown because I'll share this with you guys. So we have really wanted another son and kind of never opened my mind up to a daughter, which I am now. I think we're meant to have a daughter. So seeing the two of you with this really amazing relationship
Yeah.
is
Love.
really validating something for me. I don't really have that close of a relationship with my mother. So I'm curious to ask you how you facilitated that type of
Oh,
relationship.
please.
So
We both have answers, so she'll go first.
my mother's still alive, but she doesn't even know how to listen to a podcast. We did a whole episode about her, so she is still alive. So I can't go too deep. But my mother's kind of horrible to me. It was fine growing up. I had 2 older brothers. One has since passed away. My mother just kind of went through the motions. I don't feel like she was ever like really happy. It was fine when I was young because I was always, trying to please her. And I really wasn't, I had fun. I was like a party girl. I started partying when I was 13.
Girls Gone Wild. That
Yeah,
she
Girls
would
Gone
say.
Wild.
Love that.
But
for
then fast forward to getting married, they just weren't really there for me. My mother was all about my brother's kids and whatever. We did a whole episode about this, so I'm not going to like bore everybody again. But I wanted it to be different with my daughter.
Yeah.
Like I could never understand. I finally like understood like 2 years ago, like she's just not capable of being there for me. But I just never had a good relationship with her. And my brother is the king, my one brother that I still have. His kids are the best. And we kind of just are, like the ugly step kids. But I do everything for
Wow.
her and I'm still kind to her and I still
Yes.
always show up.
Yep.
But she's pretty evil.
So she took like the polar opposite approach and was like the best mom ever.
Thank
So
you.
You're welcome. But I think from like the kids' perspective is that there was never, and my dad too, like there was never any like judgment. Like there was
Yeah.
my parents were not strict parents. I don't think I was ever grounded. I'm not saying parents shouldn't like ground their kids, but there was such an open space for conversation
Yeah.
for my brother and I to both have when it came to like when I was younger and like was ready to lose my virginity or like when I started drinking and just going out. I think also granted, like I know my mom was more of a partier than my dad, but I think she was such like a fun party girl that anything I did was like golden.
Right. And I always said to her, no judgment. Like you're
Everything in
like
moderation,
wasted,
she would
so
say.
everything in moderation.
Like she knew I was gonna go out. She knew I was gonna start hooking up with boys. She
Yeah.
knew I was gonna do drugs eventually. Like everything was very like, I know you're gonna do this because like you're a kid and you're gonna
It's all
explore
part of
it.
growing up.
But
Mhm.
right, but
And I wouldn't want them to miss that either. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
right, she
part
was
of
like,
life.
do it with everything with moderation. And I've seen like, so when I went to college, like I did everything I did in high school, just like a little bit harder, but I was always responsible. I was like never in the hospital for drinking too much, like was never like the slut, like whatever. And I think I know a lot of girls where their parents were super strict in high
I
school.
saw that too.
Yeah.
And they would go to college and it'd be like girls
Wild
gone
out.
wild.
Yeah.
So I think it really does stem from the parents in a way where it's creating that space for your kid to feel comfortable and no judgment to go to those things.
Yeah.
Was I totally thrilled to go to her about like drinking or getting with boys? But like, no, I wasn't. But at the end of the day, it's also the kid's responsibility to not be weird about it. Like your parents aren't weirdos. Like your parents, this is their first, my favorite saying is like, this is your parents' first time living too. So it's always like, so I'm sorry, I'm a bitch too sometimes, but like, but like they get it. They were young once too.
Yeah.
They were in their 20s dating. They're not like foreigners to the concept. So one, not making it weird with your parents, and the parents not making you feel uncomfortable about it.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I think there's something telling me that I'm meant to have a daughter kind of do what you did,
Right.
just to do it.
So
differently.
Danny makes me so happy.
Oh,
But
God,
sometimes
there's a butt coming. I
It's
know it.
exhausting happiness. Like, you know what I
Aw.
mean? Like
But she's also like the most extreme mother. Like she's so attached to me, and like I think there's like a fine line where it doesn't need to be like that, and you could still be an amazing mother. But yeah, there's totally a way where you can go.
if I want
Opposite
to
of
talk
what
to
you
her,
have.
I'll never forget a few weeks ago. Like
What?
you gave me like 5 minutes on the phone and I wanted to talk to you and you go, you're being a little needy.
Yeah,
Aw.
but yeah, that's what we love that question, and that's the whole point of this our podcast
Yeah,
too.
it's
Is
amazing.
we talk a lot about dating, but we talk about dating because that's where I think we became so strong. Even when I was younger, just like the conversation around things that our whole saying is like we talk about things that your mom is probably asking you about.
Mm-hmm.
That's we're a dating relationship podcast, but it stemmed from the fact that we were so comfortable always talking about it with each other.
Well, and it's stuff like I want to know all the things my kid does. And
Right.
I want my kid
Yeah.
to come to me with all the things
Right.
that he does. And I hope there's never a day that he doesn't.
Right.
And if she wasn't dating, like now being in her late 20s, I mean, I would be fixing her up on dates, or you know what I mean? I'd be stopping people in the street. Like I
mean,
would,
you were still doing that,
I would
even
be
though I
making
was
it
like
happen.
actively dating back in the day.
or to get you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, but also you have to realize like the type of kid you're working with. Like some people
Yeah.
aren't. It's very hard for people to date. It's not easy, or it comes naturally. I'm sure you deal with clients who are nervous to go on dates.
Oh, yeah, totally. But I think that's like then we're still stuck in some of the old shit where it's like dating is the end all be all. That's gonna make us
Right.
happy, right? So it's like if someone's not dating, maybe it's like, okay, what are you doing? Are you traveling anywhere fun? Are you what's the
going on
next
with
thing?
work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah,
next
you have
thing
to
in your
make it
career?
happen.
Yeah.
I had a question, but now I forgot. I'm gonna look at it. Oh, I saw. Why am I wearing your paperclip as like a ring?
I know. I was wondering what that was. I was.
It was
looking
your
at
paperclip. It was next to me. I saw one of your posts around the friendship pyramid. And we also talk a lot about just like relationships as a whole, including friendships. So, one, what is the friendship pyramid?
Okay, yeah.
And two, well, I'll ask my follow-up question later.
Okay, so the friendship pyramid is something that I created through my work as a therapist that I
Mhm.
use with a lot of my clients. And it's just a tool to help us get really aware of the relationships in our life and get aware of the appropriate expectations to have of those relationships. So
Yeah.
what I have people do, it's like if you can just picture a pyramid, at the top is your like I call them your ride or die people. And those are the people that you can be fully vulnerable with, that that will show up for you, that really have your back. There's like no questions asked. Like the expectation is that they will be there and they can match that expectation. And as you move down the pyramid, the expectations change. So it's like a best friend, a colleague, an acquaintance.
Oh,
And so it's making sure that we're putting each friendship or relationship in the right category. And what I see happen a lot is that we're putting people
Is your mind going nuts right now?
Yeah,
Like,
I guess.
it's an amazing tool. It's an amazing exercise for us to gain perspective. And I've used it with so many clients. And what comes from it is a lot of more awareness of like the energy that we're putting into relationships, the mismatched expectations we have in
Yeah.
a relationship. And that's where so much disappointment happens. That's what's a lot of hurt feelings happens. So it's really a tool of clarity of like, who is in my life and where do they go on the pyramid? And, maybe some people don't even deserve to be on the pyramid at all. And
Yeah.
so,
Mhm.
and it's always evolving, right? Friendships are
It's
always
true.
evolving. So it's a tool, or practice exercise you could do every year in the same way we do like New Year's resolutions. It's sort of this inventory of our friendships. And, one thing I've seen come of it from clients is like, she's like, one of my clients like did the exercise and she's like, I have all these amazing friends at the top, like
Yeah.
my ride or dies. And she's like, and then I have all these people that I put at the bottom of my pyramid. And she's like, this is where I spend all my time and my energy. And I
just-
always
yeah.
I love
feel
that.
Yeah.
like shit.
Uh-huh.
And it was this eye-opening moment for her. She's like, I'm going to invest in the people at the top.
Uh-huh.
And
I
it's
love
a
that you
game
say
changer.
that because I feel like I've had this mindset ever since I graduated college, but you just like painted it in a perfect little picture or pyramid. Because like right after college, my friends and I, we kind of just like, for lack of better words, dropped the people that like just weren't serving us.
Mhm.
And I'm saying we because we were kind of all on the same page. And my friends from college I'm still like they're the closest people. I'm so
Mhm.
close with them. I feel like I have a lot of like ride or dies, to be honest. And I find myself
Amazing.
for the past few years sticking to those ride or dies. Like
You're
I
probably very happy in your friendships.
like I have the best friends in the world. I can go to probably upwards of like 8 people in my life and they will be no judgment, probably even more than 8,
Mhm.
honestly. So it's interesting that you just like really put everything that I've like thought and believed. Like I always say to people when they're, even if it's about a guy they're seeing or a girl they're seeing or a friend, I'm always like, why are you still with that person? Like if they don't serve you, like ditch them.
Yeah.
I said it to, I'm blanking out what the scenario was, but I said it to someone recently. I was like, if they're not serving you in your life, who get rid of them?
Yeah.
But I've had friends who years ago, my husband actually pointed it out to me. I had a friend that I was always, I guess I was complaining about her all the time because she just had negative energy, just wasn't really kind. And he finally said to me, you speak more about blah than you do about anyone. Like she's like sucking the life out of you. And then I kicked her to the curb.
Yeah.
But
Kicked her to the curb.
and even at this stage of the game, I mean, it's true though, because I have certain friends who are like my besties. I have friends who I'm so connected and so close with, but we don't, we don't see each other all the time, but we just pick up where we left off.
Mhm.
I have friends I play cards with, who, they're all my good friends too. But
Yeah,
I'm
is there
just
a
saying,
cards level in the pyramid?
I can ask the
Card
girls,
friends.
You just
but
play cards with them?
I'm still evolving. I'm still making friends because like
Oh
at
my
my
God,
stage of the
yes.
game, a lot of my friends moved to
Yeah,
Florida
you have a
during
lot of new
COVID.
friendsies recently
Yeah,
in your
so I
60s.
have new friends.
Yeah, it's not. It's again. There's across any age. I think friendship is a topic that keeps evolving, and friendships keep changing. And I did a whole post about my son started preschool, and I'm kind of daycare's a different game where it's like everyone's in and out, no one's trying to make
Yeah.
friends and stuff. And now we're in like a preschool setting where it's more of like community. And
Mhm.
like now I'm trying to make mom friends, and
Right.
so that's like
Yeah.
a whole new ball game. At 43, I'm like trying to make new friends.
But
and
that's so fun. Like I
Yeah.
met I think I said that to Danny yesterday.
did,
I
you
met my
did.
two like closest friends. I mean, I have a lot of close friends, but they're way up there. The first day of preschool with the
Oh my
kids.
gosh,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm still very close with the kids too.
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's always evolving.
it's always
Like you might
evolving.
meet your best friends now because I also have friends where after I kind of had my kids and moved to Armonk, I reconnected with old college friends or people who, because everyone kind of gets immersed. These people that you're meeting now in your community, like these will be your friends probably if you stay there for the next 15 years. And then
Yeah.
you might start reconnecting with old people, but you're going to be old friends. I mean, not old
Yeah.
people. Because you're so busy, between your work and your podcast and being a
Yeah.
mommy and whatever. But
She
it's
actually
all good.
reconnected with one of her best college friends because we were visiting the sleepaway camp that I went to. And this cute little girl was giving us a tour and she ended up saying her mom's name and it was her best friend
From
from
college.
college. And now
So
the
she's
girl is
back
one
in
of
my
my
life.
closest friends.
Oh my God, that's
And
amazing.
they reconnected because I ended up going to the
Yeah.
camp that she sent her daughter to the same camp.
Yeah, I think it's so important to invest in our friendships. I've reconnected with some
100%.
friends like just through stuff I'm going through, and life is so busy, and
Mhm.
we're all in different stages. But there's really something about what can come of that investment and that
Yeah.
reconnection,
Mhm.
and just making time for it. Like
We say
That's
even when
what
you're
is-
in a new relationship or in a long-term relationship, like making sure you still have those friends is so
yeah,
important.
there's
Right.
nothing like it. Like so it's like food for our soul to be with our girlfriends.
Like
Yeah.
that. It's true.
Amen.
Very
I
true.
love that.
Love my girls.
Love. We sadly need to wrap. So I know
Oh my
I told
God,
you
that was
this,
fast.
but I love to end with just like a piece of advice from our lovely guests.
Okay.
Just something you preach, something you've heard that you love that people can take away when it comes to, whatever we were talking about when it comes to relationships, fertility, whatever it may be.
Wow,
I know,
that's
pressure.
it's
That's a whole nother podcast.
I know.
Don't let fear lead your life.
I like that.
Do not be unafraid.
Mhm.
You always have time. You always have time. And if something is not feeling right, change it. Be unafraid to change it.
That's great.
Lean into uncertainty. Be excited about uncertainty. Get
Mhm.
curious about uncertainty. Don't be afraid of it. Don't shy away from anything. That would be my advice. And life is so beautiful, but it's happening really fast. So
Mhm.
be grateful for the moments that you have because they pass. They'll
Yeah.
pass, and you'll
Mhm.
meet the partner, and you'll miss single life, and then you'll have the baby, and you'll miss life without
Without the
So just
baby.
enjoy the season that you're in.
Uh-huh.
Life will evolve as it's supposed to, and it's a beautiful thing
Right. On your own timeline.
on your own timeline, on
Yeah, I
I
yours.
feel so
inspired.
Oh,
Great.
You were amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much
you. You
for
guys are
being
so
here.
amazing. Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you.
Of course.
Thank you,
What
thank
are
you.
your social media handles? Where can people find you?
Yes, the social media. Okay,
All the good
TikTok.
stuff.
Let me think. TikTok and Instagram is Quiet the Clock Pod. So we're there. You can see us all
Mhm.
there. You can DM us. You can email us at hello@quiettheclock.com or check out our website. Quiet the Clock. Everything's quiet.
Everything's Quiet the Clock.
Quiet the clock.
Amazing. Like, subscribe, do all those good things, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.